This is Datila, and welcome to the Wrestling Time Post Show. It is Monday, December 12th, 2022, and for tonight, I will be reviewing Monday Night Raw. Alright, so there's actually a lot to talk about for tonight's Raw. Not the best Raw, but there's still a lot of things that are worth talking about, and I want to start with the main event. Now, normally the way I review this show is I go from the beginning to the bottom, but I want to start with the main event. So the main event was the U.S. title championship number 1 contenders match with Seth Freakin Rollins versus Bobby Lashley. And this was actually a good match. I didn't mind the match. And so what happened at the end is what I want to talk about. I'll get more detailed into the match as when I review the show from the beginning to end. Okay, so at the end of the match, so what ended up happening was Seth Rollins attempted to do a curb stomp to Lashley, but he countered and he hit Rollins with the power slam, and then he hit the hurt lock. And then he did the spear, but see, here's the thing. The ref went outside to try to avoid contact with Lashley and Rollins. And so after Lashley did the spear, the ref was still kind of on the outside. Looked like he kind of hurt his ankle a bit or something. So when he gets back in the ring, Lashley is like upset. And he attempts to spear Rollins again, but Rollins counters with the pedigree. And so Seth freaking Rollins is victorious. And Lashley, in his rage, attacks the referee. And then Adam Pearce comes out and he fires Bobby Lashley. So obviously this fire is kayfabe. I haven't heard any reports as of yet. I was searching for some before I started the show, but I didn't find any. But in my opinion, I think that if Lashley is fired, because if you just remember, like Adam Pearce told Bobby Lashley that he needed to pretty much not lay his hands on the officials. But if Bobby Lashley is fired, I can see him going to SmackDown. He's done everything there is to do on Raw. What was left for him to do on Monday Night Raw? So he's probably going to go over to SmackDown. Maybe this is just me speculating. With him going over to SmackDown, we get fresh opponents for Lashley. I mean, he could potentially feud with Gunther for that Intercontinental title. Maybe Braun Strowman. There's just a wide range of possibilities for Bobby Lashley over on SmackDown. Not to mention, we could potentially be getting a Roman Lashley feud if Lashley goes over to SmackDown. But that's just my opinion. That's what I think. Why he was kayfabe fired. And also, too, it gets him away from Theory and from Seth Rollins. I feel like with Seth Rollins winning this match, the feud is pretty much over with him and Rollins. So what more could you do? The only thing there would be to prolong and maybe get another rematch, as you can say. But I honestly think Lashley getting kayfabe fired and potentially moving over to SmackDown, I feel like that's the right call. But what are your thoughts on that? But overall, I thought it was a good main event. But with that being said, let's start from the beginning here because we have quite a few things to talk about and to cover. So Raw opened up with the Raw Women's Championship number 1 contenders match. It was Bayley versus Alexa Bliss. Last week, they won two respective triple threat matches to face each other on tonight's episode. This match was okay. There was 2 more women's matches, and this one was okay. I think it was pretty obvious that Alexa Bliss was going to win this because Bayley just feuded with Bianca, and we didn't need to see that again. But my jib with all of this, because you can say, is that before the match started, you had Becky Lynch attack Dakota Kai and Iyo Sky, and she sent them to the timekeeper's area. And then Bianca came out and she watched this match. Now, how is it that Damage Control keeps getting outnumbered by one person when there's 3 of them? In this case, 2. I mean, both Iyo Sky and Dakota Kai could have taken on Becky Lynch herself. So I don't know how Becky Lynch keeps getting the one upper hand on Damage Control. And so after the match is over, like Bianca enters the ring and she attempts to shake Bianca's hand. But Alexa, let me see, very predictable match. Bianca's retaining the title against Alexa. Why should I care? Yeah, that is true. So like I was saying, so Bianca attempts to shake Alexa Bliss's hand, but Alexa Bliss asks for a hug. And in that moment, Bray Wyatt's logo flashes on the Titantron, and Alexa Bliss attempts to do a Sister Abigail on Bianca. And then Alexa Bliss kind of just like doesn't know what's going on. So they seem to be teasing at this. I don't know what this means. Like, if that means Alexa Bliss is going to rejoin Bray Wyatt, or if she's just going to turn heel turn. I don't want to see her rejoin Bray Wyatt. Maybe Uncle Howdy's just going to use her to kind of instigate Bray Wyatt. But I personally feel like it's going to come. It's going to, whatever they're doing with Alexa is going to happen next, probably after her match with Bianca, after she loses that match, because she's definitely losing that match. And I think that's what's going to cause Alexa to turn heel. But what do you guys think? So, great. We're going to get supernatural stuff again with Alexa. How long until she starts shooting fireballs and faces again? I thought only wizards shoot fireballs. So backstage, we go backstage and Alpha Academy is like coming out of a car. And they're basically talking about what happened on SmackDown where they got a milk bath. And so you see the OC pull up and they're pretty much laughing. And AJ Styles says that Carl Anderson sent them a video from Japan. And it was a video of American Alpha Academy getting milk bath. And so AJ Styles goes on to say that Carl is handling business in Japan. Chad Gable calls AJ Styles a fossil, and this pretty much is going to set up a match between the two of them, which takes place right after this. But before I proceed, we do have an update on Carl Anderson. So Mike Johnson, a PWI insider, reports that Carl Anderson is slated to return to New Japan Pro Wrestling this Wednesday, December 14th, which is like in 2 days, to defend the Never Openweight Championship against Sikola. That is not intended to be his final appearance for the promotion. I think Carl Anderson is doing that New Japan match there. Yeah, definitely. It says PWIinsider.com has learned from multiple sources that WWE and New Japan have come to terms on an agreement for Anderson to wrestle the January 4, 2023 Wrestle Kingdom event at the Tokyo Dome, making him the first ever contracted WWE talent to work New Japan's biggest event of the year. PWIinsider.com is told that Anderson has long figured into New Japan's plans for the event even before the Good Brothers returned to WWE, and that the two sides were able to come to terms to keep New Japan's creative plans in place. We were told that Anderson will have a strong role at the Dome show in a singles bout. So that's really interesting that that's happening. Whether this means Carl Anderson is going to drop the Neverweight title to Hikuleo on Wednesday remains to be seen. But if you guys remember, he was actually supposed to defend the Neverweight title the same day as Crown Jewel, but that did not happen because of a match that WWE was having. So, to reiterate, Fightful Select did report that the Good Brothers have been working without deals in New Japan since leaving Impact, and that an offer was made to Gallows and Anderson, and those deals were inked while Carl Anderson was still never Openweight champion. Issues regarding the Crown Jewel scheduling conflict had long been solved and worked into the New Japan storyline to extend Carl Anderson's program with Hikuleo, as Fightful had reported back in October. And that's true. It got worked into a storyline. So Fightful Select goes on to report, as far as more of a relationship between WWE and New Japan, we're actively asking about that, but everything we've heard so far is a wait and see approach. So there you have it. There's no official confirmation that we're getting a WWE New Japan working relationship, but it seems like they're kind of testing the waters with Carl Anderson. It's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens on Wednesday. Does Carl Anderson retain the Never Openweight title? Does he drop it to Hikuleo? I guess we got to wait and see, but it's pretty interesting that this is happening. Carl Anderson making history here. All right, so back to the review. So we get Chad Gable versus AJ Styles, which wasn't a bad match. I don't want to say it wasn't exciting. I thought it was a good match, but I wanted more from them. I feel like they kind of held back a little bit. Like they didn't let them go like they should have. So I really like that German suplex. Well, he did 2 German suplexes to AJ Styles. I also like that ankle lock reversal that got turned into a calf crusher. Then Chad Gable turned the calf crusher back into an ankle lock. Styles ends up winning this with a Styles clash. So it's really good to see AJ Styles pick up a win here. I think he certainly needed this win, especially after what seems that they lost their feud to the Judgment Day. So really happy AJ Styles got the win here, and I wouldn't mind seeing Chad Gable versus AJ Styles again, just as long as it's not next week. Okay, so after this, we had a Johnny Gargano segment, and I have to say, we actually had 2, but I'm going to combine both, just because they're connected to each other. And the second segment actually takes place after the match that followed this segment, but I'm just going to talk about both. All right, so you had Johnny Gargano and Dexter Lumis drawing on the board on this whiteboard, saying what they're gonna do with the money. Here's some of the things that they were gonna do. If you look really closely, it says that they're gonna go to the moon, and then they have these suit things. So the to the moon part was very interesting because it's long been rumored that Cameron Grimes is gonna get called up to the main roster. Long been rumored, I should say. Yeah, long been rumored. And so I feel like that might have been just a little bit of a hint of Cameron Grimes getting called up. So then, Candice LeRae basically shows up and says that since it's the holiday season, it's probably time to give back since they have everything they need. And so this leads them to go to the merchandise stand. And they buy everything to the moon. Yeah, to the moon. And they buy everything on the merchandise stand. And Dexter Lumis gives one of those puppets or one of those toys to a little kid that's being helped by his dad, which I thought was really adorable. Especially because he said thank you. So I thought this was a really adorable moment. So after that, him and Johnny Gargano make their way to the ring, and Johnny Gargano says that him and Lumis have so much to be thankful for. And you can hear someone in the crowd scream, "I love you" to Johnny Gargano. And so they start basically handing out stuff to the WWE Universe. And then, of course, Miz, he attacks Dexter Lumis and he steals a bag of money. Adam Pearce comes out and he stops the Miz and demands him that he gives that money back. So the whole point of this segment is that this is going to lead to a rematch next week on Raw. It's a ladder match. It is a double or nothing winner take all ladder match. So Dexter Lumis is putting up all of his money, and Johnny Gargano asks Miz to put up his money. The Miz tries to say that Maurice controls all the finances, and he tells Johnny Gargano not to act like Candice LeRae doesn't control his finances. And so as part of the deal, the Miz has to dress up as Santa's little helper and give away presents. So he actually does dress up as Santa's little helper. And honestly, I was not a huge fan of this segment. I thought it was completely pointless. I thought this feud was over. I thought we had moved past this feud, but I guess we didn't. I'm honestly kind of tired of this feud, of this storyline. I cannot believe I'm saying this, but they're actually wasting Johnny Gargano in this pointless storyline. What is the whole point? Honestly, I kind of feel like this is me. This is just me speculating. I kind of feel like Tommaso Ciampa was supposed to be involved in this storyline instead of Dexter Lumis, but because Tommaso Ciampa got hurt, they inserted Dexter Lumis. And I get that they had a suitable replacement, but we gotta move on from the storyline. It's completely pointless. I mean, we're talking about Johnny wrestling here. Like, instead of, I don't know, like, what, I cannot even find the words to describe this segment. No amount of adjectives can describe this segment. This whole thing was awful. I don't care about this ladder match next week. And WWE is just prolonging, ending this feud with The Miz and Lumis. Yes, exactly. They're prolonging it. Johnny Comedian is his name now. Yeah, Johnny Comedian. And I'm just tired of this feud. This was my least favorite part of Raw. They should have just done this. They split this into two separate segments. And I'm just tired of this segment. It's completely pointless. They're wasting Johnny Gargano. I expected this under the Vince McMahon regime, but not under the Triple H regime. I am so surprised this is happening under the Triple H regime, especially to Johnny Gargano of all people. So after the Johnny Gargano segment, we have a quick backstage interview with the Street Profits and Akira Tozawa, which, remember I said this was going to happen, a 6-man tag match player, holla. And Angelo Dawkins says Akira Tozawa is his ninja, and that Montez Ford says that while the Street Profits were gone, Judgment Day were running things. And Akira Tozawa says he wants the smoke. So this leads into the 6-man tag match, Judgment Day versus the Street Profits and Akira Tozawa. And honestly, this was not a bad match. I really like the fact that Akira Tozawa got a chance to shine during this match, especially towards the end in the last few minutes. I mean, he did a dropkick to Dominic. He did a suicide dive to Dominic. He did a DDT to Finn Balor until he got laid out by Damian Priest. 6-man tag match was pointless, would be beyond belief. And it's no surprise Judgment Day picked up the win here, as they have been booked really strong since Triple H took over. But like I said, my favorite part of this whole match was that at least Akira Tozawa got some shine in this match. And then after this is when we get the second follow-up to the Johnny Gargano segment. But like I said, I combined both segments, so there's no need to go over that again. We get Iyo Sky versus Candice LeRae, which was actually a pretty good match. I actually enjoyed this match. I'm really happy that Iyo Sky got the win here. I really thought that Candice LeRae was going to win here, especially because she beat Dakota Kai. So I was about to rant if Candice LeRae beat Iyo Sky in this match, because like Iyo Sky's one half of the women's tag team champions. She should not be losing to Candice LeRae. Speaking of tag team champions, I think the reason why Iyo Sky got the win here is because they need momentum going into SmackDown and to defend those tag team champions. I swear, like, I'm going to feel some type of way if Damage Control loses those tag titles. They barely defend them. And this is your first title defense? Like, in how long? And if they lose, oh my God. I'm going to feel some type of way. But good match, and I'm happy Iyo Sky got the win. Candice LeRae could afford to take the loss. So then we have a backstage interview with Kevin Owens. And he's basically talking about how Solo is a very dangerous man. And he proved that last week. So before this backstage segment, we get a replay of Solo attacking Matt Riddle, and they said that he got taken out for 6 weeks and he got damage to the trachea, which is all kayfabe. There's a reason why, and I will talk about it right now. As soon as I get through these next two segments. So Elias approaches him and says that he has a big match against Sikola and he wants KO in his corner. And like, Kevin Owens sold this segment with his facial expressions. Him and Sami Zayn totally know how to do their roles perfectly. And Kevin Owens says that he hasn't forgotten what Elias did to him for the first half of this year. And Elias said that was his brother Ezekiel. And Kevin Owens says he remembers being attacked by a guitar. And he asks Elias how they're even if Ezekiel and him are two different people, as he claims to be. So I thought that was really hilarious. I actually like that they included that. And they didn't throw up the Men in Black gif to make us forget that that whole storyline happened. Why did they need us to remember that Ezekiel garbage? We don't need to. I actually didn't mind remembering that stuff. I thought it was pretty hilarious. I really enjoyed that bit. Okay. So before I get to the Matt Riddle news, I'm going to talk about the next segment, and then I'll get to it. We get in the Elias concert, and he's got a picture of Matt Riddle. He's got the bongs that Matt Riddle would play, and he calls this a Matt Riddle tribute concert. And he said he wanted to honor his friend, who is like a childlike wonder for him and Ezekiel. And he talks about how Matt Riddle knew the universal truth. And I ask you guys the same. Do you guys know the universal truth? Because I know what the universal truth is. And that is that WWE stands for Walk with Elias. So Elias says that he found lyrics that Riddle had written for them and he wanted to perform. And the paper he takes out is rolled up like a joint. And he starts talking about how I'll walk with you wherever you go. Elias, you're my bro. And as soon as he says time for Solo, that's when Solo Sikola comes out and it leads into their match. And I have to say, this is the furthest Elias has gotten in performing a concert without being interrupted. Normally, he gets interrupted right away. But back to Matt Riddle. So Cassidy Haynes of Body Slam.net reports that we won't be seeing Matt Riddle on WWE television for 6 weeks because the real reason that WWE has written Riddle off of television for the next 6 weeks, nor is the first time that WWE had to write him off television or delay plans. The sources have told him that the reason for pushing back the match, Matt Riddle had failed a drug test leading up to SummerSlam. This was also the last test under Vince McMahon's regime. With Vince no longer in charge, a new creative direction was taken regarding Riddle, and his big match against Rollins was postponed until Clash at Castle. Additionally, I was told that the company informed Riddle at the time that another failed drug test would result in a rehab or fire situation similar to what happened with Jeff Hardy previously. This leads us to Matt Riddle's most recent 6-week television write-off. I was able to confirm that the reason that WWE wrote Riddle off TV is because he failed another drug test and will be sent to rehab. The belief going around is that he has already entered treatment or will be going in soon, as most programs run for 30 days, and he would need to be finished in time for his return in 6 weeks. So that is what's being reported by bodyslam.net. So there you have it. That is why Matt Riddle is going to be off of TV for 6 weeks. I didn't know about this whole drug test with Riddle. Yeah, I didn't either. I was so surprised. I thought it was something. I knew something was up, but I thought it was going to be something else. I did not expect that to happen. I was not expecting that at all. But we'll see what happens in 6 weeks. So that means he'll probably be back in the new year. So then you get Elias versus Solo Sikoa. Poor Elias gave it his all in this match. But he sure went through the ringer in this match. Because even though he was able to hit a knee to the jaw of Solo, Sami Zayn was out there distracting Elias, which allowed Solo Sikoa to hit him with the super kick, and which is followed up by a spinning Solo. So Solo Sikoa obviously won this match. And then afterwards, Riddle will be missing the Rumble. Oh, really? He is? 6 weeks? December 9th to I guess he might. He might actually miss the Royal Rumble. So then after the match, there's a post-match assault. Of course, Solo Sikoa attacking Elias. Sami Zayn held Elias while Solo did the Samoan spike. And then he put a chair around Elias. But before he could finish, Kevin Owens came out. And he barely saved Elias. He gave Solo Sikoa a stunner. And again, Sami Zayn quickly going out of the ring. He wanted nothing to do with Kevin Owens. And just when you think that everything is okay between Kevin Owens and Elias, here comes Elias giving a stunner to Elias. That is payback for everything that Elias Ezekiel did to Kevin Owens earlier this year. And like Kevin Owens said earlier, he did not forget. So then we get Asuka versus Rhea Ripley. Asuka coming out with no face paint whatsoever. Interesting. Seems like we might be getting a character change for Asuka. So this actually was not a bad match. Asuka sent Rhea back first into the ring pose, which she followed up with double knees to the jaw. Asuka kicked Rhea, then Rhea kicked Asuka. Both for him and ended up going down. Asuka did a hip attack to Rhea Ripley, which sent her to the outside. She's going to be Kana. Yeah, I think so too. So when Rhea gets into the outside, Dominic got in Asuka's face, and it looked like they were teasing her attacking Dominic. And so when she got back in the ring, of course, Dominic wasn't done interfering. He put Rhea's foot on the rope as Asuka was pinning her. He got split. This is interesting. Her miss is no longer green. It is blue now. And he got to the eyes of Dominic. But of course, because of this distraction, Rhea Ripley was able to hit the riptide to Asuka. And so Rhea Ripley was victorious on this. So it seems like they're going to not necessarily repackage her and completely change her name and everything, but she might be going to becoming Kana. So after this, we get a backstage segment with Dominic. He tells his mommy, Rhea, that it burns. And then Priest was like, something else could burn much worse. I think that was hilarious. And then Rhea smacks Priest for saying that. We get a Dolph Ziggler promo in which he's basically talking about how the U.S. title is a workhorse title and that it means more than that. And he cites how Bobby Lashley and Seth Rollins are pretty much going to go to war for that title. And he goes on to say that Theory is the U.S. champion on paper, but he needs to put this show on his back. And that cocky arrogance of Theory will be Theory's downfall. And that he goes on to talk about how Theory snaps whenever someone calls him kid, and that he's not a deserving champion. And he basically tells him to watch your back, kid. And so after this, that's when we get the main event, which was the U.S. Championship #1 contenders match, Bobby Lashley versus Seth Freakin Rollins. So this match was a good match. I actually enjoyed this match. Lashley immediately went after Seth Rollins, and Seth Rollins got sent into the barricade because of that. And like you see Austin Theory's in the back watching this match. Lashley sent Seth Rollins face first onto the steps, and Bobby Lashley sent Seth Rollins over the barricade. Seth Rollins did a crossbody followed by a suicide dive, which sent Bobby Lashley into the barricade. He did a kick to the jaw followed by a fucking arrow. And then he did the frog splash to Bobby Lashley. But the ending, Rollins attempted to do that curb stomp, but Lashley countered and he hit Rollins with a power slam. Then he put him in the hurt lock. And as he was putting in the hurt lock, the ref kind of backed away and he got out of the ring. Kind of looked like he messed up his ankle because he didn't want to get involved in that. And I guess he didn't want to get knocked out. And so when he spears Rollins, it takes the ref a while to get back in that ring. And Lashley's pissed because he had that match won, but it wasn't for the ref. He tries to spear Rollins again, but Rollins counters with the pedigree. And so Seth Freakin Rollins is victorious. And because at the end of this match, Bobby Lashley attacks the ref, Adam Pearce fires him. I did talk about this in the beginning, but just to reiterate what I said, I honestly think that Bobby Lashley getting kayfabe fired might be him going over to SmackDown. And I think him going to SmackDown would be best. And he did everything he could there is to do on Raw. Going over to SmackDown, he gets fresh new opponents, could potentially maybe get Gunther versus Lashley, which would be a banger. Maybe Sheamus versus Lashley. We already had Drew versus Lashley, but who knows? We could get a lot of different matches out of Lashley on SmackDown. Right off Lashley, 2 out of 10, terrible, awful, putrid show. I do agree. Tonight's show, I don't know what was going on with tonight's show, but I honestly feel like the Tonight Show dragged a little. I did not enjoy tonight's show at all. There were a couple of things I liked. There were things I did not like. Number one, I did like the Chad Gable versus AJ Styles match. I was not a fan of the Johnny Gargano and Dexter Lumis stuff. Judgment Day versus Street Profits and Akira Tozawa was okay. Iyo Sky versus Candice LeRae, I liked. The Kevin Owens and Elias stuff, I enjoyed. So the Elias concert I liked, just because I like Elias. Elias versus Sikola storyline, because of the story that was being told, I liked it. Asuka versus Rhea, Ripley wasn't too bad, and the main event was good, but you take out that Johnny Gargano stuff, and I feel like this Raw might have been a little stronger, but it was just all over the place. And so for that, I'd have to give tonight. This is just me being generous. I'm gonna give this a 4 out of 10. Michael 101, giving it a 2 out of 10. I'm giving it a 4 out of 10. But tonight's show is just, I don't know what the hell was going on with tonight's show, but I did not enjoy it. But with that being said, you guys, thank you guys all so much for watching and for the continuous support. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell so you get notified whenever I go live or release a new video. And I will see you guys live Wednesday after Dynamite. Bye.